Welcome to the Spaghetti Wall podcast, where we dive into life.
Both the messy parts and the moments of joy, and everything in between. I'm Jason Wilcox, licensed clinical social worker.
And I'm Dr. Tansei Lee, a licensed clinical psychologist.
So we were asked by someone to cover a certain topic for today's episode, which is, what do you do when your partner has friends that you don't like?
Oh, yeah, that could create some tension and even drive a wedge between couples.
Absolutely. I mean, especially if it's really important for you to have your partner with you with your friends, or you seek some type of approval from your partner about your friends, that can cause problems.
Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is like, oh, well, what would we do about that in that situation? And yeah, I think we have very different expectations socially, like between you and I. And so when I think about this issue, it's about like autonomy and values, I think, around friendship and community, and also allowing your partner not to be enmeshed with you in how you socialize and how you create connections with other people outside of the relationship and the family.
Well, it's funny because you and I you have some friends I don't really care for.
Hmm.
Most of your friends I really love. I think they're great people, but there are a couple I don't really like to be around.
Yeah, I totally can accept that. It's not a hard pill for me to swallow because I do have this perspective that it's okay for you and I to have different opinions. It's okay for us to see things differently, and I can still love you and you can still love me.
Right?
And so I think in our dynamics, we allow each other to have different experiences without feeling threatened.
Right. And you allow me to say, I don't really want to be around that person.
Hmm.
And so there's times you go hang out with some of these friends that I don't care for, and you go do your thing, and I go do my thing, and it's not a big deal at all. There's been times you've had them over to the house, and I go find other things to do, or if I don't want to go do other things, then I go and I just kind of tolerate it for a little bit and engage, and when I'm done, I go find something else to do.
When I met you, I knew you were an introvert. I knew you had, social anxiety. I knew that, uh, I was more socially a social butterfly than you. And so I think there was some already knowledge and acceptance that there will be times where you will not be with me socially. And so I came into the relationship accepting that from the beginning.
It's interesting because where I was coming from when I first met you, I'd just been divorced, and my ex-wife, she had friends that it wasn't that I just didn't care for them. Like I couldn't stand these people. She had some of those kinds of friends that, like the couple that you have that I don't enjoy being around of it, I can be around them and be fine. I don't dislike them. But like my ex, she had some friends that like I disliked them. I couldn't. It was so difficult to be around these people.
And how did you guys navigate that situation?
Well, that's the thing where I'm headed, is that it was very different than you and I. She took a lot of offense to it and took it really personal. She'd get mad about it. She would tear me down for it if I didn't like her friends, and it caused a lot of conflict and problems. But the reality is we can't, we are who we are. And so if certain people don't connect for you, it goes back to what you said. The autonomy is really important, to understand that your partner doesn't have to like your friends, and they can choose to do other things, and you can still like your friends. But I think there's the reverse side of that too, that I've seen when I've worked with people, where someone tries to control their partner and tries to say, since I don't like your friends, you can't have your friends.
Mm.
And that's a problem in and of itself too.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine myself going, oh, you do not get to tell me who I get to hang out with and who I get to make friends with. That crosses the line.
What's interesting about that, though, is if it gets to where these friends are causing problems in the relationship. And then the question is, what do you do at that point?
So it really, it can be different in case by case. Things vary,
Yes.
but there's kind of levels of tension, maybe levels of issues or escalation. So, yeah, if these friends are being problematic and creating drama in my life, I probably would create some boundaries for me. I probably would address these things with my friends. And I would talk about it. I wouldn't be like, oh, well, you just have to deal with that. Or, oh, hopefully in the past I haven't done these things where I'm like minimizing the harm that it might be presenting in our relationship or being defensive or taking it personal, because that's where we see the wedge start to come in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but what do you do if, let's say it was my friends, and my friends are being pretty toxic to our relationship, and I get defensive and want to protect my friends and want to still have my friends, and I don't put boundaries between my friends and me. Instead, I want you to just accept it and deal with it.
I think initially taking space, because obviously that would be very hurtful. That would be very painful. I would maybe start to believe that you're prioritizing these people over me, right?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe my own inner negative beliefs might come up, like, oh, he doesn't love me as much. Oh, he doesn't care. He'd rather spend time with these people, or he's really choosing them over our relationship. And so I would probably pause and self-reflect and journal and think about these things and how I'm showing up. Um, and if this is a reenactment of something vulnerable for me,
Yeah.
right? And then I would talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I would go to, right? First, always go back to what we've talked about in many other episodes is deal with the negative core beliefs, because those will always make the situation worse. Once you've dealt with those, then it's really good to have a conversation. And there's another tool here that you can use. It can cause some tension in the relationship, but it might need to happen is put a boundary around it. It's just saying, here's what I'm okay with and what I'm not okay with. And that might mean your partner grows distant from you and moves away from you. But it's also important to recognize you don't have to stay tolerating things that are hurting or harming or causing problems.
Yeah, here's a specific example of that. Like, I know a lot of people that I hang out with may not be sober. So we run a dry house, right? We don't allow drinking in our home. So when I invite these friends over, these people might be into drinking wine. We just make it really clear that hey, friends can be over, but there's no alcohol. Please tell them don't bring wine. And so I think like these are examples of when you feel uncomfortable about something within the friendship that's could cause harm or could impinge on family values. Here's an example to set that boundary.
Yeah. And again, a boundary, it's not something you're trying to be threatening about. It's not something you're trying to cause harm or tear someone down about. It's just saying, hey, this is a boundary of mine. I'm not okay going any further that direction. And so I'm asking that you honor that boundary.
Do you have a specific boundary that you've used in the past, Jason, like with your ex?
Thanks for saying that, because I was like, I don't have one with you. Well, I mean, I guess you could say it's a boundary with you, but it's more of just an ask I had was just always warn me if those friends are going to come around, so I just know and I can decide what I want to do or not do. The ones that aren't my favorite that you have. With my ex, it was too complicated. I wanted some boundaries, but it was a little too complicated. I think I tried, but that's quite a few years ago. My mind doesn't quite remember.
Yeah. Well, you wanted some boundaries. What would you have wanted? I'm really curious because I don't think I've been in a position where, because I'm a social person, where I'm like, I can't tolerate this person, or I don't like this person, right? Yeah. Would it be like, come save me? So I can think about boundaries with my girlfriends where they're like, hey, when you see that this guy is really in my space, come save me from him, right?
Well,
Like,
you had boundaries with your friends. You told me, if you're willing to share, a story about a situation you had with your friends where they crossed boundaries, and then you had to hold your boundary and tell them what your boundary was.
Oh, right. Yeah. This was back when I was early 20s, you know. We had a girls' trip, which turned out not to be a girls' trip. And I was very upset with that. And I said, hey, this is my boundaries. I'm not comfortable. And this was not shared. I did not consent to this. This feels really icky and sketchy. And so I spent money on an early plane home and I left our girls' trip because they violated a boundary. And I was really hurt by it. And it really did like cause me to lose a long-term friend because I just could not be part of that lifestyle.
And hopefully you don't mind me clarifying, but it wasn't just that they turned it into not a girls' trip. They did some things that most people would probably say, oh my gosh, what is happening here?
Oh yeah, I mean, definitely don't want to go into
Yeah,
specific,
right,
of
right, right.
course,
I just wanted to
because
make it clear that it wasn't just that it didn't turn into a girls' trip. There was things that happened, but you put a boundary around it. And since I've known you've had a boundary there. Your friends understand that boundary. They've never asked you to go into that position again. And you guys have great friendships.
yeah, I think that they if you have friends, you kind of know them in certain ways. So I think because I reacted so strongly that they never put me in that position again.
Right. But it's a good example, right, of where if we need to put a boundary in something, even if it's our romantic relationship, we can say, hey, this thing is a boundary for me. I just I can't do that, right? Like this crosses a line for me.
Mm-hmm.
And the example that we just gave with your friends, right? All but one of your friends stayed your friends. Even with that boundary in place, they were okay with it. They just knew that that's not an area to have you go join them in.
Right. Yeah. And I think I'm as we're talking, I have another example where, you know, clients are saying like, oh, my partner accused me of being too touchy-feely with friends, right? Because people interact very differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think touch is something that is a touchy subject
Yes.
where some people do communicate through touch. So when they're talking, they might put their hand on you, or they might, you know, if they're laughing, they might hit you, or, you know, they just have these ways of communicating that comes off very friendly and flirtation and touchy-feely. And so I think this is one boundary that's come up with individuals I work with is either they are uncomfortable with their partner communicating this way with friends, especially friends who
Opposite sex.
opposite sex, or it could be same
Or
sex. Like
same
I'm
sex,
like,
that might be
yeah, because there are people who are bisexuals. Like,
right.
yeah.
But people they may be attracted to, and if given the chance or something. But yeah.
And so I think this is another boundary that people struggle to address, that, hey, you know, this makes me really uncomfortable. And I would say in these situations to really just name the behavior, right?
Yes.
Name the behavior and go, when this happens, this is how I feel. Could you be more mindful and talk through that? Or like, when you're around this person, it'd be nice if you're not alone. And so I know that kind of edges, you know, in between like controlling behavior, but I don't think there's a harm in just expressing your discomfort with these situations and behavior.
So let's break this down, what we're saying here. So first off, we would always say, check your negative core belief, right? So if you're getting triggered by that, you got a negative core belief, deal with that first. But once you get that out of the way, if you find that this is just something that you prefer in life, that is it a preference you can tolerate and be okay with and accept your partner? Or is it something that's crossing a line for you? And so if it's something you tolerate, you can invite your partner, you can express your feelings, you can, like I said, that invitation of, hey, would you be willing to not do this, or to do this, and invite them to honor some of your preferences. But if it is something that's like crossing the line, that's, hey, if you go this direction, it may cripple or end our relationship. This is where the clear boundary is going to be important. And people might say, well, like Tan just said, isn't that controlling? Well, controlling versus boundary setting, they feel similar. And in some ways you could argue they are the same, but they're a little bit different, because the difference is a boundary says, hey, this is my boundary. If you're crossing my boundary, I may go a different direction. You have the choice to honor my boundary, and you have the choice to go a different direction. I'm not controlling what choice you make here, but I am telling you where my boundary is, where I'm not okay any longer.
Yeah, I would agree with that statement, Jason, because when I think about talking around feeling safe, sometimes we need to have a voice, and we have to clarify these boundaries, because boundaries allowed us some sense of control of what we feel we can express and what makes us feel safe.
Yeah.
And so I do agree that, is it controlling someone else? No, but it is giving you voice in controlling what you say. This is my stopping point, you
Yeah.
know? And I do believe it is, depending on how things are presented, I think it definitely are ways to go about communicating these things.
Correct.
That's not blaming, that's not accusatory, that is not attacking. And so it's really important for that first step, because without you being regulated in your nervous system, you might flip your lid. You might say things that will only escalate the situation, not diffuse it.
You know, a situation I often offer clients is I say, well, okay, here's what a boundary looks like. I'm a person that I don't want to be with someone that does drugs. I'm not okay with it. It's a boundary I have. Fortunately, you don't do drugs, so that's wonderful. Other people are okay with drugs, and that's okay for them, right? I'm not judging it. I'm not saying anything good or bad. I'm just saying in my life, I don't want that in my home. I don't want it in my relationship. So if that boundary was crossed, first off, we already are on the same page, and I've already made it clear that's something I don't want in my life. So we already know that. But if I hadn't made that clear and the boundaries crossed, I would want to make that boundary clear at that point.
All
I would say,
right.
hey, this is something, if we continue to go forward, I'm not going to be able to stay in this relationship,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm not trying to be, it wouldn't be that I'm trying to be mean. It wouldn't be that I'm trying to control. It's just saying, hey, I'm walking this direction in life. If you want to walk that way too, I'd love to join you. But if you want to go a different direction, I can't. Which is, if you want to do drugs, that's cool. You can. It's not going to be with me. We're not going to be able to be together. And so it's like not a blame towards you. It's not degrading you. It's, hey, you have your choices. That's cool. I'll just be making a different choice if you want to make those choices. That's a boundary.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I don't know if I have ever shared this with the audience or here, but the reason I don't do drugs, Jason, is that you are my drug. You are all I need. And so I don't need to do drugs. You make me very happy. I love our life. And so that's why I don't do drugs.
Oh, I feel so flattered right now.
It's cheesy. But yeah, and your example you're giving is definitely not a judgment. It's just, and I would say, how does it feel that you can say that to me? And I am not going, oh my gosh, you're so sensitive. Oh my gosh, you're such a lame-o, or
Which would be passive aggressive communication if someone did that to you.
And I would say the work that I do with individuals in therapy is that to encourage them to be able to communicate just that. Because a lot of them stuff it or hold it in or beat around the bush, or they tolerate it because they fear losing love, because they fear that their partner may react not in a way, or they have not practiced the skill of voicing their opinions and their concerns in the relationship. So,
there's something I do in couples counseling that sometimes I think is hard for some couples. Well, I know some couples have a really hard time with this activity I'm going to share here. Is the activity of understanding, oh no, I think I did share it on one of the episodes, of seeing that the fact is, you as an individual, there's tons of options out there for you. It's not just the person you're with. There's tons of people that you can have a great life with. I did talk about this in one of the other
yes.
podcasts. But it's important to recognize this, because if you understand that there's tons of people out there you can have a great life with, it's also okay if your partner chooses to go a different direction. You don't have to sacrifice yourself, sacrifice your morals, your values, sacrifice who you are, hide who you are, just to be with this person because of fear of the future if you're not with them. There's many people you fall in love with. There's many people who fall in love with you. So it's important to see these things because it's easier to say, hey, here's my boundary and hold boundaries.
Yeah, it goes back to that looking for negative core beliefs. Are you believing that no one else will love you? And so you fear confrontation and conflict, and you fear speaking up when things make you uncomfortable, especially when it comes to other people, third parties outside the relationship.
So back to the friends. The key points here are, first and foremost, your partner has autonomy. It's important to recognize they have autonomy. It's important to honor that autonomy and allow them to choose. It's important to, if you have negative core beliefs wrapped around it, deal with those. It's important, though, that if you have some boundaries around the friends, that it's okay to have those boundaries of saying, hey, I'd just rather not hang out with them. So when you hang out with them, I'm going to go do something else, but you're welcome to hang out with them. And if the friendship is getting to a place where it's toxic for the relationship, and I want to clarify something here. If it's truly toxic, it's not that your negative core belief is saying it's toxic. So it's the difference between someone makes you feel like you're a third party and you're saying that's toxic. That's not. It's the difference between that and the person saying stuff like, oh, you guys are horrible together and your partner is such a jerk and you should get rid of him. That's toxic, right? That's somebody trying to tear a relationship apart. So the difference between what is toxic and if it is happening, that it's okay to put boundaries around that, where it's appropriate for you to put those boundaries or not.
Yeah, and this is where open discussion and, continuing to talk about this topic and explore it without the fear of uh, being shut down. I think it's important because sometimes people come to realize that, hey, this is an imagined threat. How people define what's toxic and what's crossing the line, it's different, it's subjective. And so I think the last thing is talk about it. If you feel you don't have the skill to talk about it, please reach out to therapists or couples, therapists to work through this, because it's really important that you shine light on it, you speak on it, you explore it so that you can find the best route forward for both of you guys or individually.
And if we weren't clear earlier, we are an example, like I said earlier, that Tan does have some friends I don't really care for. Again, they're not people I can't be around, but they're not necessarily people I enjoy being around. And so there is sometimes we hang out and I don't mind. I'll go and hang out with you and your friends. And there's times that I'm just not really wanting to. And so the point here is we've talked about this. We have a safe place in our relationship for me to express these things. When I express them, Tan doesn't take it personal. She doesn't get upset or hurt by it. She just recognizes I'm a different person and she's a different person, and it's okay for us to be different.
Yeah, and you know what the funny thing about that is, Jason? I know you well enough that sometimes I have a sense of that way before you even bring it up. I can read you. I can, at this point kind of understand some of why you might feel a certain way, or seeing that this is not for you. And so sometimes, yeah, even before we talk about it, I have a sense of it already. Well, we hope that this was helpful. If you feel that you can take away some things or other people might find this helpful, please do share.
Yeah, and we appreciate the individual that said and came out and asked us to address this topic in today's episode. And for anybody listening, if you want us to address other topics, please say it in the comments, reach out to us, find a way to get us that topic, and we would be happy to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Take care.